Step 5, find your hot triggers now. Think about how crazy it is to think of a world-level athlete or a president, extremely disciplined, committed men who will eventually go on and cheat on their wives. I've experienced this firsthand myself. For the last 3 years, I've lived in this house with my family. I've been super disciplined. I wake up every day, 5 a.m. cold showers. I do like the disciplined stuff. And yet I've traveled to Thailand twice in the last few years, along with some other countries. And it's so interesting of what happens to my discipline when I go somewhere else. I turn into a degenerate. Here, I'm super productive. My diet is like on point. I'm training hard every day. I'm working super hard. I go to Thailand and I'm literally edging my dick whilst high, whilst like barrage messaging girls on Tinder or Instagram. I go to Mexico and I'm literally caught having public sex. Why is it that you can show like a spectrum of character traits? You would assume that someone who is disciplined is disciplined. But not exactly. Someone who's disciplined is not always disciplined. Rather, he is disciplined when the context is the same. And so if he keeps the context, the environment the same, then he stays disciplined and he seems like an all-round disciplined person. Put that same disciplined guy, let's say this world level athlete, and put his type of woman in front of him, like some curvy, light-skinned woman that's, his exact type. And suddenly he's not disciplined and he's cheating on his wife. So this is called your hot trigger. And this is something you'll really want to do alongside me right now. Be honest with yourself and start to think what your hot trigger could be. What is the thing that triggers you to behave in a way that you wouldn't like? For a lot of guys, it might be like a sexually attractive woman who's specifically showing some interest in you. Most married men may feel kind of like committed to their wives and they've been good boys. But it's just because that situation hasn't arose. But once that situation does arise in their 10, 20, 30-year marriage, when the guy's working at some convention or something, and that's when some like random woman that he works with starts like speaking to him flirty and he ends up cheating. It was never that he was like this totally committed guy all this time. It was that he always had this hot trigger that was just not in front of him. Likewise for you, you might be quite a disciplined guy, and yet when you get triggered to, for example, get into that like incessant urge to fap because you've been on social media and you've seen some like gym girl who posts a picture of her ass, then you're not as disciplined anymore. What is the equivalent of going to Thailand for you? For me, my hot triggers, and I'm just going to be totally honest and vulgar. If I smoke weed, I turn into a degenerate. I get horny as fuck, and I'm literally like, I get obsessed with having sex. If I go and move to a different place, if I go travel, and specifically if I'm away from like either family or people who ground me, even when I've moved with good friends, I've still turned into like a degenerate. Being with my family seems to keep me quite stable, which of course is like, it's common sense. That's what family's supposed to do. And these days we don't even value family anymore. This part of this guide might literally save you from making the biggest mistakes of your entire life. What could be your hot triggers? What are the negative if-then situations? If X, then Y. If I smoke weed, then I turn into a degenerate. If a girl approaches me, I might end up cheating on my girlfriend. Be honest with yourself in this practice. And this actually reminds me of something that Dr. Andrew Huberman talks about on his podcast, where he spoke about failure forecasting. The idea is that we should take some dedicated time every now and then to think about the ways that we could actually fail, the obstacles that could arise, so that we can plan to overcome them. We don't want to live in this way. We don't want to, 24/7 be thinking about the ways we could mess up, the failures, and, feeling quite negative and reserved, but rather just for like some dedicated time, maybe once a month, once every few months, you'd want to just project forward and think, okay, what could be the mistakes and failures that I could make soon? If you've got a girl that you really love and you really want this relationship to be a success, you should be asking yourself this question, like, what kind of situation might I cheat in? Maybe if I take drugs, maybe if I drink alcohol, maybe if a girl really, approaches me and she's like being very straightforward. Maybe if I get a DM from a girl on Instagram, maybe if I'm on Instagram or whatever app and like, some girl has liked my picture. When you're honest with yourself, you know the tendencies that you have. You know the situations where you might actually sway. And most people will never do this. Most people will never have the honesty to admit this to themselves. This is what's going to set you apart from the lesser version of yourself who doesn't want to have the honesty or humility to admit this. Once you're becoming aware of your if-then situations, if this happens, then I might act like that, whether it's for positive things or negative things. It's time to start really thinking deeply about the kind of environments you might want to set up for yourself. You want to set up an environment, a place to live, situations to get into, context to be in, which are going to support your goals. They're going to support the character traits that you want. So for example, for a long time, since around 2019, I wanted to be a digital nomad. That's where you work online, you make money online, and you just take your laptop and you can work from any different country. I wanted to do that for so long. COVID happened. I'm waiting, making money online. It gets to 2022 and I'm ready to actually fly out to Thailand and live out this dream. I'm going to live there for literally like months or even years and not even come back to the UK. And after literally just a few days, it was so clear that like that wasn't the place to be. But there was this huge goal that I had been working on to be there for so long that, I stayed there for a little bit longer. Then we're 1 month in and I'm really turning into a degenerate. I'm smoking a lot of weed. This was like a solid, year and whatever ago. And it was so strange to be in this situation because just a month before that, when I was at home, I was waking up at 4 a.m. going to the gym. And so I started to doubt myself thinking, wait, am I still a Jeffrey? Am I still like, I must still not be disciplined at all. It was so strange to literally see myself like beginning to like fucking not fap, but like edge and cope and say that it was for a testosterone boost. That was my morning routine. I used to wake up and literally look at girls on Instagram and say that it was for like a testosterone boost. And then me and my friend would drive to the gym whilst listening to like fucking porn audio saying that it was a testosterone boost. And it's not like, don't fucking do that because it's a stupid idea and it literally ruins your workouts. But like, just, I think about that and I'm like, what the fuck was I doing that? Like, doesn't even sound like me at all. But when your environment changes so much, then you can't expect your behavior not to. So what happened around that time? My channel literally started to die off. Like it was the first month of my channel's history that it actually went down because I was so distracted because, my brain was just going elsewhere. And I let that happen for about 1 month and a half. And then I just got so frustrated thinking like, I'm not even happy here. I'm not even making progress to the goals that I care about. I'm wasting my time. I don't care about like this digital nomad feeling of, working in the cafes and stuff. And so I left the trip early, moved back home and got straight onto like a great grind. Luckily, the day before I left, I ended up meeting my girlfriend there in Thailand. So that was like at least a happy moment with that. But then we went to Thailand together just in January of this year. And I went again, not really for the digital nomad lifestyle, but more for this, why did I even go? I went with this like goal of becoming like a martial artist and I'm going to go train there, Muay Thai and everything. And I realized that wasn't actually for me, that I was pretty much just pursuing this goal of becoming a fighter just because it would look cool online and that I didn't actually give a fuck about that. Like, it's kind of nice to train, sure. So we went together and I literally just wasted another 2 months of my life. It's been 6 months of my entire life has been wasted because I was following like a goal that randomly popped into my mind, which, seemed kind of cool. Like, yeah, go to Thailand, go to like a different country and stuff. And, for me, it's like, okay, go to Thailand, go to like one of these countries. For you, it might be something like pursuing a certain sport, which isn't even right for you. It might be like being friends with this friendship group that are always going out and taking drugs, or this friendship group that are always playing video games. It's about the situations that you get yourself in. You can see that mine, it seemed kind of productive, and so yours might too. You might feel like it's productive to go and pursue this kind of situation or environments, but it's only when you get there you realize you don't actually like the kind of person you are when you're there. So 6 months of my entire life, which is a lot, that's about 5% of my life, wasted. Not wasted in the learning sense, I learned things about myself, but wasted in like the goal sense of, getting closer to the things that I want out of life. 6 months of my entire life wasted because I was putting myself into an environment where I didn't do best. because I didn't have the realization that you might be getting now, that there's an environment that is right for you. Now, for me, it's here in my family's home. So the environment that's right for you might not sound as cool as going somewhere else across the world and moving to Dubai. Because mine doesn't. It doesn't sound very cool when I tell you, yep, I live at home with my family. And it almost sounds strange when, you know, the normal, I mean, that's a side topic, but like it's strange to like live with your family when your business is doing very, very well and you can afford like a place by yourself. And, you know, people find that it's strange in some ways. But this is where I'm doing best. This is where I am I act like the man that I want to act. This is where the environment has set me up for success in the areas that I care about. So why change that? Why change that for the perceptions of other people? So I ask you, if there's situations and environments that you keep getting into where you don't act like you want to, where your traits are worse or poorer or weaker, where your personality is much more reserved, maybe insecure, then why keep putting yourself back into those situations? You need to find your hot triggers, the things that trigger you into letting go of the willpower, and start to consider the kind of environment that you could set up for that. And so your actionable step for this part of the video is to just journal this question, maybe for a few minutes. Maybe if you want, you can write it as a comment below the video, and then that will like help the YouTube algorithm as well. And just answer this question: what could be my hot triggers? How could I set up an environment where those hot triggers don't bother me?